Let's be honest with ourselves. No one in their right mind is going to take that off-road. Now that we have the confusion out of the way, let's go about the business of understanding just what the hell that is. So, let's kick off today's experiment with what's smacking us across the face. That looks a hell of a lot like a Lamborghini Huracan, but not any run-of-the-mill Lamborghini Huracan. Rather, it is the last Lamborghini Huracan to ever be. Then you look a little bit further, and you can't help but thinking it looks like an Huracan had sex with a Subaru Outback, and really, that's not far off from the truth. In reality, that is the Lamborghini Huracan Sterrato, Sant'Agata Bolegnese's interpretation of a Porsche 911 Dakar. So how exactly do they go about making an Huracan on stilts? Well, they do a lot of the same things that they did in the 911, like you look at the bodywork and there's some cladding there. That's the Outback side of it. But then underneath it, they do a number of changes. Like there's aluminum skid plates underneath the bottom, and then they change the actual dimensions of the suspension. So like the track a little bit wider in the rear by about 1.3 inches, 1.1 in the front. Then of course it sits higher by about 2 inches. Then you look at those wheels, they're not as like wagon wheel-esque as say a Lamborghini Huracan Evo, which I would say is a good thing. Those are 19-inch wheels. Then there's a very important item that does not change, and that is the naturally aspirated 10-cylinder. Most importantly, this is the last of the run of Huracans, which is also the last of the run of naturally aspirated Lamborghinis, meaning no electrification. Now that brings us to a very obvious question. If we take a vehicle that is essentially not at all practical and try to graft on some practicality, does it impact the performance figures? They're sorta. 0 to 63.4 seconds. VMAX, that's the biggest difference, 160 miles an hour. Now, before you and I drive this vehicle, a favor. If you see value in these episodes, please share them. Click like and subscribe. Vielen Dank, or should I say, grazie mille. So you guys know the drill with Lamborghinis by now. The factory only officially quotes weight without fluids. So if we add in the weight of gasoline, water, and oil, this is almost 3,600 pounds, translated to about 1,620 kilograms, with that rally mode. Oh, that definitely accelerates like a Lamborghini Huracan. Well, perhaps nothing I can quantify, but the personality, it feels different. It feels less intense, it feels less hyper. Maybe that's something that was engineered by the folks in Sant'Agata Bolegnese, or maybe it's all my mind because I'm up on stilts. So while yes, it's important to understand what's changed with this, a limited production model, I would argue it's just as important to understand what hasn't changed that underpins this, a fundamentally different vehicle from a driving dynamics perspective. Like for example, we talked about these smaller wheels and tires, which do have an impact on the way the car drives. But that is connected to a double wishbone suspension all the way around, and most importantly, the overall construction of the vehicle does not change. So it's still an aluminum and carbon fiber tub, and working in conjunction with all of that are aluminum and composite body panels. Why is all of that important? Well, this car, it's a bit bigger than other sports cars you and I know well, like a 911. For example, the wheelbase is 7 inches longer, so when you change all of the materials to be more exotic, shall we say, it lowers the overall weight. Yeah, this at 3,600 pounds, not the lightest car out there. As a basis of comparison, a GT3 that's just under 3,300 pounds. However, this, again, something that hasn't changed, all-wheel drive. Then the last item that has not changed, and this one probably the most important, the brakes. Still carbon ceramic rotors fitted as standard, 380 mils in the front, 356 mils in the back. So what is that? 15 inches there, 14 inches there, and then 6 piston calipers in the front, 4 in the back. Okay, so now let's focus on really what's different here, and that is the way this thing drives. And here there are 2 surprises. Number 1, this rally mode. It's trying to kill you. That's the beauty of this. It's a real Lamborghini in terms of like Lamborghini from way back in the day where these things were two-wheel drive and you pushed them the wrong way, you'd go off over there. That's kind of what you can do, at least on road, with this vehicle. And really what they've done, they've raised all the limits of all the traction and stability aids. So really this is up to you when it comes to rally mode. And because the thing is higher off the ground and it's wider, you feel more of that. You have more room for play, and it's magnificent. I really didn't expect that. There's a whole different personality here. But then, speaking of personalities, let's go back to Strada. And this, remember I said the thing was relaxed, where it didn't feel as immediate? This is where it doesn't feel like a Lamborghini. There's more compliance in this. It's actually lovely to drive around town. Is it like a luxury car? No. Does it feel like an Urus? No, it still feels like an Huracan, a low car, but you notice the lightness in the nose a bit more, even around town. So really, this is the tale of two very different Lamborghinis. You know what? Strike that. Let's put it a different way. This is like politics. No middle ground, no independence, just very, very, very far left and very, very, very far right. Rather than you and I playing a round of our favorite game, the options game, instead, let's have a discussion about customization. You see, a vehicle like this, limited production, and it's the last of a very important vehicle for Lamborghini, you would think one could make this their own. Now, the first stop would be the color. I wouldn't go with white for such an important vehicle, but this, it's a combination of colors and textures that make this color. Like the white alone is $16,000, but that works in conjunction with the matte paint and the contrasting bits like the roof and the lower body cladding. That all together is $26,000. Then the sports seats in the car, we've driven those in other Lamborghinis. I think they make a huge difference. They do need a bit more lumbar support, $7,600. Those fog lights, those are fitted only to these cars, but you have to pay an additional $2,600 for those. Then the fire extinguisher. We talked about that in the episode of My Car. I was a sucker for it, and it's a bargain with Porsche. I would never think Porsche is cheap for any option. That was $180 in My Car. The fire extinguisher in this one, $900. Now this will come as no surprise to you. There are many different wheel options on offer. What you are looking at, yes, 19 inches, $6,000. But that's not why I point them out. Rather, the valve stems, you can pick customized caps for the valve stems that have the Lamborghini bull on them, $180. Then nothing to do with Lamborghini, but you must be punished because you are buying the last of a naturally aspirated 10-cylinder engine. So the US government wants to have a word with you for $2,100 in gas guzzler tax. Shame on you. Then something I have never in my life seen before from either a serial production manufacturer or something like this, a bespoke car. The destination and handling, usually on a Lamborghini, it is very expensive because they do a container shipping over the ocean, about $3,700 for an Urus. This one is not $3,700. This is $26,000 destination from Sant'Agata Bolegnese. Why? Because they fly your Huracan over from Italy. So putting all of that together with the $273,177 base price, this is $373,216. Now, one would think, oh my God, that is a lot of money. But here's the catch. That's limited edition. And when I say limited edition, it is a numbered limited edition. This car is one of 1,499 ever built. But here's the catch. Before they even built the first one, they were all sold out. Now, there are some other idiosyncrasies about this thing we do need to discuss. First and foremost, you cannot see out of the back in any way, shape, or form. You know what? There is no one behind us on this deserted road, so let me demonstrate for you on somewhat of a straight. Come to a stop, let's say I want to go back just a little bit here. Don't try this at home. I'm going to go into reverse here, and the engine intake is blocking the rear view mirror. It's almost to the point where they should probably do that rear view mirror from like Cadillacs we've seen, where it turns into a camera system. That would be more intuitive. Then let's get back to driving here. Then there's the interior of the car, and you're thinking to yourself, my God, that must have cost a fortune. In reality, that suede is part of the whole Sterrato package. So think of it as a gift for buying a car with stilts. Then it adds this inclinometer here, which come from Jeeps. Never expect to see that in an Huracan, but it's there and it's interesting. It adds to the gauge cluster. Let's pick up the point from the top of the episode. Will anyone really take this thing off-road? Now, I probably sandbag you because I'm certain there is an outlier of an outlier that will buy a $400,000 limited production car and take it to sand dunes. But that is the exception to the rule. Most people have bought these things, have put them in their collections. They probably drive them on Sundays and then diaper them on Saturdays, and that's the extent of what these things are going to be used for, and they will most likely appreciate in value. But all that aside, how is it as a sports car? And there, I had an unusual experience. When I first got behind the wheel, I'm like, I really don't like this thing. It doesn't know what it wants to be. But then I spent some time in those two disparate modes, and yeah, there's the one that reminds you of, oh my God, I love Lamborghini from like 1983. That's kind of the thing here. But at Strata mode, there's something about that that makes this more of a GT car than the other Huracans, where you want to kind of kick back, drive a little bit aggressively on canyon roads like this, and just crank the music. Something you normally don't do in an Huracan, Evo, or Technica. That's really what you and I have learned here, which brings us to the wish list. I got nothing. It's a limited production car. What the hell are they going to change? Because they're not going to make any others. On second thought, let's you and I get greedy and make a huge request here. And this isn't just for Lamborghini. It's for Lamborghini, Ferrari, Porsche, everybody who makes vehicles like this that have an NA engine. Go to the EU, go to Washington and say, look guys, there's an opportunity to make efficient NA engines. Let's be realistic about it and stop with the fear-mongering and make limited production cars like this. For two reasons. Yes, we want them, but they contribute to the overall research and development budget for these large car companies. Think about how much money they make on a car like this that would contribute to future electric programs at Audi. See where I'm going with this? I'm just one man. This is the point of the episode that I turn around to you guys to opine in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all word, MotoManTV all word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. With that, if you found this part of the discussion fascinating, I spend a lot of time talking about these types of topics with other people in the industry in my members-only episodes. I'm going to give you a link to the playlist here. Until I see you in the next episode, bis später.